Recently, we took a look at the GeForce RTX 5070 and compared it to several previous generation 70 series GPUs from NVIDIA. So today, we're taking a look at the other side of the fence by checking out the last 6 years of AMD's Radeon GPUs priced at around $500 US in an effort to see how well the new Radeon RX 9070 stacks up to its predecessors. Now, normally I'd just like to try and keep it simple. I'd say we're looking at maybe in this example, the Radeon RX 700 XT series. So I guess that would include the 5700 XT, the 6700 XT, and the 7700 XT. But with this latest model, it's not a 700 class. I guess it's a 70 class product like we see with the GeForce GPUs. And it's also priced over $500 US. So it's really quite messy. There's no easy way to compare it with, I suppose, similarly named Radeon GPUs because there kind of aren't any. So instead, for this one, I've had to pick more of a price range. I couldn't even pick an exact price point. That's how messy it is. So yeah, I've just picked a price range. But you know what isn't messy? Today's video is brought to you by UGREEN and their Nexode 65-watt travel charger. As part of the Nexode Pro series, this is an ultra-slim fast charger delivering exceptional 65-watt charging in a credit card-sized form factor. This is the ideal travel companion as it comes equipped with interchangeable US, UK, EU and AU plugs right out of the box, making this the only wall charger you'd need to take abroad. This little unit packs a punch with 65 watts of efficient, super fast charging at the 2.0 spec, allowing for a 50% MacBook Air M2 recharge in 30 minutes. Equipped with a pair of USB Type-C and a single USB Type-A port, you can plug in 3 devices simultaneously with the intelligent GaN Infinity chip handling the rest, ensuring fast, safe, and cooler charging. If you happen to be jet-setting over the New Year period, we would highly suggest considering one of these, so for more information, please check the links in the video description. Okay, so of course we have already reviewed the RX 9070, and I have to say, upon release, I did find this particular model, well not the Sapphire Pure, not this particular partner card, just the 9070, so the non-XT model. I've really messed that up. Anyway, I did find it a bit underwhelming next to the XT version, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Certainly wasn't a bad product, but at $550 US, it was just $50 less than the XT model, meaning at MSRP, it was like 8% cheaper, but it was also 12% slower. So it actually meant the more expensive XT model gave you a better cost per frame. So given all of that, I recommended that most of you just spend the extra $50 if available at MSRP to get the 9070 XT. Unfortunately though, shortly after release, you couldn't purchase either the 9070 or 9070 XT at the MSRP. And in some regions, the non-XT model even ended up being the better value choice. In fact, at the time when I did all of my testing for this video, the 9070 XT was still priced well above its MSRP in most regions, whereas the 9070 could often be found at the MSRP, which is why I decided to focus on it for this content. Also, we are sort of trying to target a $500 US price point, so naturally the non-XT model is priced closer to $500 than the $600 model. So, as it stands right now, the 9070 XT can be purchased at the $600 US MSRP, but the 9070 has fallen as low as $510 US, but most models are currently priced up around the $550 US MSRP. And sadly, pricing is expected to increase shortly. Anyway, the goal of this content was to look at Radeon GPUs priced around $500 US, or the nearest we could get to that price point. The 5700 XT was the flagship 5000 series part, and it only retailed for $400 US, so that's what we had to go with. All of that said, is the RX 9070 a better release than the 5700 XT? How does it stack up compared to the 6700 XT offered in 2021? And is it better than what we got from the 7900 GRE last year? To find out, we're testing all of them head-to-head at 1080p, 1440p and 4K using 2 different quality presets per game to get a good idea of where things stand. So, let's get into the results. Starting with Call of Duty Black Ops 6 using the basic preset, the RX 9070 was good for 316 FPS at 1080p, 243 FPS at 1440p and 139 FPS at 4K. Focusing on the 1440p results, we see that the 9070 is 25% faster than the 7900 GRE, 29% faster than the 7800 XT, and 48% faster than the 7700 XT. Then, when compared to the 6700 XT, the RX 9070 is a massive 87% faster, and then 167% faster when compared to the 5700 XT. Though again, that model did sell for $400 US at the time, but you'll see later when adjusting for inflation that that's more like $510 US in today's money. The margins are similar when using the Extreme preset. The 9070 is again just over 20% faster than the 7900 GRE. That said, the margin over the 6700 XT grew to 108%, so a substantial performance increase there, and then a mind-blowing 190% increase over the 5700 XT, which was also replicated at the 4K resolution. Up next, we have Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty, and again, we'll start with the low-quality settings. At 1080p, the RX 9070 was almost 40% faster than the 7900 GRE, 27% faster at 1440p, and then 28% faster at 4K. Then when compared to the 6700 XT, we're looking at a truly massive 97% performance uplift at 1440p, and 187% over the 5700 XT. Switching to the high preset saw the RX 9070 beat the 7900 GRE by a 25% margin at 1080p and 1440p, while the margin was extended to 33% at 4K. Then when compared to the 6700 XT, the 9070 is offering a 93% performance uplift at 1080p, 107% at 1440p, and 137% at 4K. And when we compare to the 5700 XT, we're looking at a massive 173% increase at 1080p, 186% at 1440p, and 205% at 4K. Moving on to Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered, and again we'll start with the medium quality settings for this one. At 1080p, the RX 9070 delivered 28% greater performance than the 7900 GRE, making it 82% faster than the 6700 XT and 132% faster than the 5700 XT. Those margins also increased at 1440p. Here the 9070 was 37% faster than the 7900 GRE, a massive 103% faster than the 6700 XT, and 156% faster than the 5700 XT. Switching up to the very high preset, the RX 9070 was again 28% faster than the 7900 GRE at 1080p, but then 37% faster at 1440p and 42% faster at 4K. Now, for those of you using a 6700 XT, you're looking at a 91% performance upgrade at 1080p, 107% at 1440p, and 135% at 4K. Then from the 5700 XT, you're looking at an incredible performance improvement in the range of 150 to 200%. Next, we have Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and in this example, the RX 9070 was just 18% faster than the 7900 GRE at 1080p, 20% at 1440p, and then 26% at 4K, though we are using the medium quality settings here. Still, that meant it was 83% faster than the 6700 XT at 1080p, 93% faster at 1440p, and 102% faster at 4K, so still a very big upgrade there from the 6000 series model. Then once again, the upgrade from the 5700 XT is truly massive, 155% at 1080p, 157% at 1440p, and then 159% at 4K. Then we see when using the ultra quality settings that the RX 9070 is around 20% faster than the 7900 GRE, anywhere from 90 to 110% faster than the 6700 XT, and over 150% faster than the 5700 XT. The 9070 is a beast in Rainbow Six Siege, beating the previous $550 US Radeon GPU, the 7900 GRE, by a massive 43% margin at 1080p, 41% at 1440p, and then 39% at 4K. So an impressive uplift there, but if you're coming from something like a 6700 XT, the gains are even more incredible. Over twice the performance with a 117% uplift seen at 1080p, 129% at 1440p, and 138% at 4K. So needless to say, if you have a 5700 XT, the upgrade on offer here is going to be mind-blowing with up to 175% better performance. Switching to the Ultra Plus preset does reduce the margins quite a bit, which is interesting. Now the RX 9070 is 28% faster than the 7900 GRE at 1080p, but then 24% faster at 1440p, and then again just 17% faster at 4K, where it was almost 40% faster using the medium settings. Still, 6700 XT owners are looking at more than doubling their performance with an upgrade to the RX 9070. Space Marine 2 is a CPU demanding game, so using the medium settings we do end up CPU bound pretty quickly, even with the 9800X 3D, and this was certainly the case at 1080p with the RX 9070, which hit a wall at 147 FPS, making it just 12% faster than the 7900 GRE. That margin did grow to 22% at 1440p and then 30% at 4K, as the results here are heavily GPU limited. The RX 9070 is still a good upgrade from the 6700 XT though, offering 62% greater performance at 1080p, 90% at 1440p, and then 103% at 4K. It has to be said the original RDNA GPU, the 5700 XT, does struggle in this game, even with the medium settings only rendering 60 FPS at 1080p, so naturally the RX 9070 is going to be a significant upgrade from that kind of GPU. And we see even when using the Ultra preset that we find similar margins. The RX 9070 was 17% faster than the 7900 GRE at 1080p, 21% faster at 1440p, and then 30% faster at 4K. When compared to the 6700 XT, it was 85% faster at 1080p, 96% faster at 1440p, and then a massive 110% faster at 4K. Finally, we have Shadow of the Tomb Raider using the medium preset, and here the RX 9070 averaged 278 FPS at 1080p, 214 FPS at 1440p, and 129 FPS at 4K. As a result, it was 23% faster than the 7900 GRE at 1080p, 26% faster at 1440p, and then 30% faster at 4K. Then when compared to the older 6700 XT, it was 73% faster at 1080p, 80% faster at 1440p, and 90% faster at 4K. Now, with the highest quality preset enabled, the RX 9070 was still good for 234 FPS at 1080p, making it 26% faster than the 7900 GRE, 49% faster than the 7700 XT, 73% faster than the 6700 XT, and 117% faster than the 5700 XT. And the margins remain much the same at 1440p and 4K. Okay, so here's a look at the 7-game average based on the medium quality data. And on average, the RX 9070 was 28% faster than the 7900 GRE, so not an amazing generational uplift, but not bad either. For those still using a 6700 XT, you're looking at roughly twice the performance with the 9070. We saw an 80% increase on average at 1080p, 96% at 1440p, and then 113% at 4K. So needless to say, if you've been holding out with a 5700 XT, you've not only done incredibly well, but you're in for one heck of an upgrade. Then when using the ultra quality settings, the 9070 XT is offering on average 25% greater performance than the 7900 GRE. So a slight decrease when compared to the medium data, but really much the same overall. It was also roughly 30% faster than the 7800 XT, 60% faster than the 7700 XT, 100% faster than the 6700 XT, and then 160% faster than the 5700 XT. So taking all of the data we just looked at, here's how the various models compare in terms of value based on their advertised MSRP, not taking inflation into account, which we will look at in a moment. To keep things simple, I'll focus on the 1440p data, as it's the most relevant in my opinion. The Radeon RX 5700 XT comes out at a cost of $8 per frame, making the 6700 XT 9% better in terms of value, despite the fact that it does cost 20% more. The jump from the 6700 XT to the 7700 XT was significantly greater, with the RDNA 3 GPU offering 26% better value. However, upon release, the 7700 XT wasn't that well received because, as you can see here, the 7800 XT was actually better value, reducing the cost per frame by a further 7%. Then, with the following generation, we did eventually get a retail version of the 7900 GRE, but unfortunately overall Radeon A4 was pretty underwhelming, and we get a pretty good sense of why, as here the GRE fails to improve upon the value of the 7800 XT. Thankfully, the RX 9070 is far more impressive, reducing the cost per frame from the GRE by almost 20%, making it by far the best value Radeon GPU released between $400 and $550 US over the past 6 years. And the value of the RX 9070 improves further once we adjust pricing to include inflation, as this bumps the 5700 XT, for example, up from $400 to $510 US, and that's a 28% increase. So if we again look at the 1440p data, we see that the 6700 XT is now 15% better value than the 5700 XT, but the 7700 XT is now also 34% better value than the 6700 XT, while the 7800 XT and 7900 GRE end up about the same value, costing around $5.30 per frame, and that means the 9070 is 22% better value. Looking at the last 6 years of Radeon releases at around $500 US, it's clear that the Radeon RX 9070 is the best deal yet, which, look, I suppose that shouldn't surprise us, right? The newest thing is the best. That's generally how it goes in tech, unless it's an 11th gen Intel processor, or maybe even an Intel Core Ultra processor. But I digress. Seriously though, it might surprise some of you to learn that the latest generation of GPUs is actually the best in terms of value. Kind of hard to believe given how the past few generations have gone, and that's even if we don't adjust for inflation, so we don't have to, factor in that sort of thing to prove that this is the best value Radeon GPU we've seen of the last 6 years. The Radeon RX 5700 XT was widely regarded as a good deal back in 2019, delivering RTX 2070 Lite performance for $400 US, making it around 20% faster than Vega 64. Looking back at the launch reviews, it was common for the 5700 XT to be praised for its value, though it was probably helped by the fact that AMD first announced at an E3 event that the price would be $450 US, with a special anniversary edition costing $500 US. But thankfully, AMD did drop the price to $400 US right before launch. Adjusting for inflation, the RX 9070 sees a $40 US price hike over the 5700 XT, but it does pack twice as much VRAM and on average delivers a 160% performance improvement. Then when compared to the more recently released 7900 GRE, the RX 9070 is offering a 22% improvement in value, which is why the 9070 series was so well received at launch. Because when available at the claimed MSRPs, they really are quite good value, especially when you factor in the improved ray tracing performance and FSR4 support. In our recent Top 5 Best GPUs content, we recommended the RX 9070 over the RTX 5070, while the 9070 XT was the clear choice over the heavily overpriced 5070 Ti. But be aware, if all models are available at the MSRP, then the 9070 XT is the better deal when compared to the non-XT model because of, cost per frame and all that stuff. And that's certainly the case right now, but as prices start to rise, the RX 9070 could become the better deal once again. So be sure to check out pricing in your region. And again, keep in mind that the XT version is around 10 to 15% faster on average. It does depend on the games included there, but I think we found it to be 14% in our day one review, but again, somewhere in the 10 to 15% range. And that'll do it for this video. If you enjoyed it, give it a like, subscribe for more content. We've probably got some more GPU head-to-heads and things like that coming up. Probably get into a few more 50-plus game benchmarks, and there's some other interesting content coming up where we try to navigate the current DRAM crisis. So that could be interesting. So it will be interesting. Subscribe for it. Also, over the join button or Patreon, if you want to become a Hardware Unboxed member, signing up to either one of those things will give you access to our exclusive Discord server, awesome place to hang out and chat, tech or otherwise, live streams, behind the scenes content and Q&A stuff. So check that out if you're interested. If not, that's perfectly fine. And I would like to thank you for watching this video. I'm your host, Steve. See you again next time.